So I am the mother of two. I know it's hard to believe. Wait, no. But anyways, I recently saw an influencer on Instagram say that motherhood or just parenting in general brings out an anxiety you didn't even know you had. It reaches deep down there and it pulls out the most intrusive thoughts that you could ever imagine. Now, I have been dealing with anxiety on a normal basis since I was yay high. So when my first daughter was born, coincidentally in February, which is, if you don't know, Girl Scout cookie season, she's a great lover of the trees. I was so worried that every time I ate a tag along, I would refuse to hold my daughter. I would run to the bathroom, brush my teeth, and wash my hands before I went back to hold her because I was afraid she had a peanut allergy. We do not have any peanut allergies in my family whatsoever. So that just kind of gives you a glimpse into my little postpartum anxiety adventure, to say the least. Now, about a year or so later, I was doom scrolling, as they say, on my phone. See, I'm younger than you probably thought. Doom scrolling. I was doom scrolling on my phone late at night while nursing my daughter, and I came across this tragic story of a little boy who was at Disney World, one of my most favorite places ever, who had been eating popcorn. And just by chance, a piece of the popcorn had gotten into his lung, which caused an infection. He ended up in the hospital. He did survive, so I'll say that. He did survive. But the mom was just talking about how traumatic it was. And I just kept thinking, no popcorn ever for my daughter. Unfortunately, about a year later, we were sitting down at a restaurant, one of our favorites, and she was into solids at this point, and they put down a bucket of popcorn, which is one of my favorite parts of this restaurant in particular. And she says, "Me? No." "Me?" I said, "No." She says, "Why?" And I said, Can't till you're 4. 4, sorry, you gotta wait." My husband looks at me, and so we convinced her that if you've ever heard of Pirate's Booty, which is kind of like that, like foamy fake popcorn, we convinced her that that is the under 4 years old popcorn for America, I guess. We call it JoJo's popcorn, just for her. She deals with that, time and time again. Popcorn, yeah, JoJo's popcorn, not 4, not 4. Well, this past February, my daughter turned 4. And as I am planning this extravagant birthday party, because she insisted on having a Princess Wicked Disney World Halloween theme birthday party, I am pulling out these all-nighters trying to bust out this party to remember, because I like to make birthday parties big. Unfortunately, it wasn't on her actual birthday, so she turned to me and said, "So what are we doing on my actual birthday?" And I panicked, and I said, "Well, what do you want to do on your actual birthday?" And she goes, "I want to go to the restaurant with the popcorn." And it occurs to me that 2+ years later, she remembers she's allowed to have popcorn. I've since then been working on my anxiety. I went through my strategies that my therapist and I worked really hard on. I said, "Okay, once you're legally 4, you can have this popcorn." So we ended up not going to that restaurant. We went to see Paddington in Peru, which I highly recommend. And I said, "Okay, what do you want to eat?" This is at one of those sit down, like the restaurant type theaters. And she looks at me, she goes, "Popcorn?" And I kid you not, the joy on this little girl's face when she took that first handful of popcorn is something that I will never forget. I would say it was the equivalent of a preschooler's 21st birthday.